Yeah, let's go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and I feel you should all get some kind of award for staying right until the very end of the symposium. My name is Helen Clare, I work for JISC, and I'm also working on Work Package 9 of EOSC Future. So this session is going to present some of the outputs of EOSC Future's work around building training infrastructure. Just want to move on to... So we've got various speakers from different parts of the project looking at different aspects of implementing this infrastructure. Venkat's going to give us an overview, and then we've got some looking at the technical aspects, metadata, etc. So I'm going to hand over to Venkat to kick off.
Great, thanks, Helen. Yeah, welcome everyone. So in case you don't know me, my name is Venkat. I work for OpenAir, but I'm also the EOS Future Work Package 9 lead. So Work Package 9 is the training and skills, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview, meaning let's say about 20 minutes, of what it is and what we've done so far up to now. And really the purpose of this session is for you to provide feedback as well. I mean, we've got 10 months left of the project, so it's end of September next year, and there's a whole load of things that need to be done up until then, and we've got a lot of things on the cards, and we would love to hear more about what you think as well. Not that. So, in case anyone in the room, because I'm sure everyone knows what EOS Future is, but just in case there's anyone in the room that doesn't, EOS Future, it's a huge project, and this is some of the things that are being built as part of it. And really what we're doing, apart from, so there's the technical stuff that's going on, which, you know, the interoperability framework, the EOS core, EOS Exchange and so forth, and I'm sure many of you will have heard about that in other talks through the course of the last couple of days. But really what we're aiming to show you here is this part here about training and support. So yeah, EOS Future, it's ambitious. It's got a lot of things that it wants to do. I'm not going to get into this because I'm sure you've heard about all this already. Indeed, innovation, streamlining, and so forth. The slides are going to be shared, by the way, so you can drill into this a bit more if you want to at your own leisure. So these are the main aims of EOS Future, and as you can see, training and skills is one of the key things, and that's where we're going to discuss things with you here. So the aim is to train both users and providers to make the most of the EOSC environment. So the project aims to establish this thing called a Knowledge Hub. This hub will build a network of expert trainers and catalog existing support materials while developing new courses as well. And these are some of the objectives of Work Package 9, the training and skills. So to train stakeholders, to become active users of EOSC, and I'll describe to you exactly what we mean by users as well. And of course of open science in general, to support providers to add their resources into the portal, and also to work with other EOSC projects that are currently running. And also, I'm sure many of you have heard about the science clusters and science projects that are part of EOS Future too. To consolidate the emerging sorry, these are actually coming in here. I forgot about that. Consolidate the emerging cross-discipline trainer community as well. We have a lot of training going on in the other EOS projects as well, and of course we need to align with them. And we want to actually make sure that, as well as the alignment, we can actually collaborate efficiently in what we're trying to do. And build and operate this learning management system. Ooh, there we go. which is this Knowledge Hub that I briefly mentioned earlier. So the approach that we're taking, we thought that we would actually identify who the stakeholder groups should be first. And we call them actor groups within this training and skills work package. So stakeholder equals actor group. And essentially we have 4 principal ones, which are the consumers. And what we mean by this is EOS consumers are people that are the end users of EOSC, meaning researchers, citizen scientists, and so forth. The second group, and I've placed an asterisk here because we'll hear a bit more about it later from Heinrich, are EOS providers, basically those wishing to add resources into the EOSC platform. And they need to be supported in the right way to be able to do so. What we mean by intermediaries here are those people that are funders, librarians, IT staff, and also, crucially, data stewards as well. Those people that actually facilitate being part of EOSC or using EOSC or something like that. And of course, finally, we have the trainers as well. We need to train up a cohort of trainers that can actually train other people to actually use EOSC as well. And that's a big part of this. And there is a 5th group, which actually Helen leads on, which is within the EOS Future project as well, because we need to create training within EOS Future. Another thing that we did, and quite recently, is this thing called learning paths. And we had these actor groups I've just described to you, but another step that we've taken is learning paths to actually identify more specifically end objectives that someone might want to achieve. And these are some of the ones that we've identified so far in an initial pass. We're actually going to develop this further. So institutional facilitators, resource providers, user trainers meaning a user of EOS to train them, research practitioners, citizen science practitioners, and accelerators. Accelerators meaning those that can actually catalyze, I guess, the use of EOSC more and more, and that's something that we identify. So as I say, this is something that is just a first pass, but we're going to develop it further, and we would love to know actually if there's any other specific ones that we should be targeting. Indeed, just the other day, someone asked about commercial entities and companies. Maybe that should be another learning path as well that we can add to here. So, moving on, another bit of work that we've been doing is in collaboration with this group called the Community of Practice of Training Coordinators in Open Science. This is something that was initially set up by OpenAir, but we try not to make it exclusively about OpenAir. It is a completely open group, and anyone is welcome to join us. You just need to email, actually, either me or Helen to do so. And we have more than 100 members currently, and some people are even outside of Europe. But the purpose of me showing you this is that we set up 2 task forces within this community of practice that's basically an offshoot of the EOSC Future project. One was dedicated to quality assurance of training resources. This is something that we really needed to establish because it's all very well creating things, but we need to make sure that they're of high quality. And so it's nearly published, actually, a set of guidelines for this. So this isn't only useful within the EOS Future project, and we hope that it'll be useful outside that too. But we'll be using that as a framework to make sure that what we create will actually have some strict criteria. The other one, the other task force, which actually needs to kind of get up and running a bit more, is actually training in EOSC. And essentially what this grouping would be is similar to the community of practice of training coordinators, but which has a wider remit of open science and RDM, FAIR principles, whereas this task force would be specifically that, but within EOSC. So it would be an informal network where people can get together, talk about training in EOSC. So as I say, that's really kind of getting up and running only now. And we foresee that maybe it might produce some outputs, we don't know, but it would be more of a long-running thing that could go well beyond the EOS Future project. Actually, I'm going to skip that, sorry. This is going to be discussed more by my colleague Pedro later on. But I'll just briefly describe to you what the Knowledge Hub is then. So I mentioned it earlier. This EOSC Knowledge Hub is one of the key things that's being developed by the EOS Future project in the skills and training. And essentially, it's two things, two halves. It's a training or learning resource catalog and a learning platform. So this catalog is being developed actually after initial specification by Work Package 9. It's being developed in task 5.3, which is going to be described by Jordi in a few moments. And the learning platform is something else. That is basically a Moodle, which many of you I'm sure are familiar with, and I'll describe to you exactly where that comes into this. And of course, it's aimed at those 5 principal actors that I described to you, the consumers, providers, and so forth. And it is specifically for training in EOSC. Anything to do with open science, etc., you can probably find in many other places, so we don't want to redo things that are already there. We want to reuse as much as possible, but anything to do with EOSC, this is where it's going to find a home. And actually, I should say as well that although we're going to be reusing a lot of content, we've also done a gap analysis, essentially. There's a lot of things that are still missing, and this is where Work Package 9 is actually going to develop new content, fill in those gaps. And indeed, we've actually identified about 25 courses, and that covers about 100 different topics regarding the EOS platform and various other aspects related to EOS. And each one of those we're going to create content for, and it will find a home on the Knowledge Hub. The way this is going to be done is essentially I don't want to get into the details too much here, but there's an authoring tool called Articulate, which actually creates self-paced learning packages, which you can actually upload onto the Moodle platform, and the learner will be able to see it there. So each one of these 100 topics will create individual SCORM packages. So these are the files for Moodle, and you'll be able to see them there. Another thing that I've not actually mentioned right now, but maybe I can get feedback on, is assessments. That's something we really need to look into a bit more, which we haven't had a chance to do too much. But when a learner actually goes to the platform, picks a topic to learn something about, then we need to do assessments as well. And that is something that we're looking into. And indeed, we're hoping that maybe Skills for EOSC can actually help out in this as well. So this is a rough workflow of what you will see. So a learner wants to find out something specifically about EOSC, how to use an element of EOSC, whatever it might be, something in the platform. They go to the EOS Portal and they do a search there. And this is what will happen, and this is what Jordi will demonstrate in a few moments. Going to the search.eosfuture.eu website, you do a search there, and one of the tabs, along with data and software and so forth, is trainings. And you'll be able to find results of trainings and then click on the results there, and that should take you to the relevant or linked training resource. As I say, we're wanting to aggregate. So this is basically a catalog of catalogs, and we're wanting to aggregate anything that's already out there that's related to EOSC, but also create new content wherever necessary, which is quite a lot as well. And they will be findable through here. So at the moment, what you will see is just an initial set. We're going to actually build this up with more numbers. But that is actually public right now, and you should be able to see it. What we're then going to do is link these where appropriate, because if we're creating new content, to this other platform called OpenPlato. And OpenPlato is a Moodle, basically an LMS that was developed initially basically through OpenAir. And you will be able to go there and view any new content that we developed through the EOS Future project. And these two things, and this is what you'll see basically. So this is a learning module that was developed in Articulate. And these two things essentially constitute the EOS Knowledge Hub. So that's where I'm going to stop for now. And there's a lot of things that I haven't actually described to you, but I think there will be a chance for us to discuss it. But I'm just going to pass over to Jordi, who's actually going to go a little deeper into what this training catalog is, because it's task 5.3, and Jordi, who actually implemented it after initial specification by Work Package 9. Jordi.
So, hello, I'm Jordi. I work at the ESRF. It's a research infrastructure, a particle accelerator in France. And I'm very involved in Work Package 5. And one of the things that we do in task 5.3, as Venkat just said, is we develop this training catalog. So based on what Work Package 9 is feeding us, the information about what we need to train, how it needs to be accessible, what the users need, we are building a training catalog. And as you will see, something very basic, but it's very important, and we need to do it well. So basically, the training catalog, to me, and from my point of view, is a key outcome of the EOS Future. I mean, we have been talking these days about interoperability framework, services, lots of things, but if we don't have people that know how to use them, how to use these services, why come to get this data, that will not be something very useful for everybody. So we need to ensure that this takes place, that all the training capabilities are there. And the training catalog is many work packages working together. So we have Work Package 9, but we have as well Work Package 4 that will be doing the onboarding of the content, and the 5 that is the shop, let's say, the front end. So, as Venkat says, it fits in the Knowledge Hub and will be open for everybody. It's a public-facing thing. Anybody can go there. And what we want is that is the place to go to find your training. So there will be catalogs with further training onboarding. There will be some training courses there. There will be links to OpenPlato. There will be plenty of things, but the idea is that there is so many content there that is where researchers want to go. And it's the one-stop shop. You go there, and then from there you find what you need. This is the aim. This is what we want to do. And of course, to become this place to be, it needs to be very easy to use, very intuitive. The user experience has to be great. So we are putting lots of effort in ensuring that is a tool that is for everyone. Doesn't matter how literate you are with computers, where you are interested in a very obscure subject, it's there, you can find it, and it's easy. And of course, it's sustainable, because the EOS Future funding will stop in less than a year, and we want to build something that is easy to maintain and that can last forever. Yes, forever. We have persistent identifiers, we have lots of things, so we want this to last. So And what I'm going to do now is just show you the training catalog. You will see it's very simple. And at the moment, it's available. That's the URL. We will distribute the slides. You will be able to click and see it. For now, there is very few content, basically because the onboarding process for the training is not fully finished yet. But if we have a good website that is easy to use and it's easy to onboard the training, then there will be more and more content, and we'll get in a virtuous circle where there will be more content. People will want to go to see the content. It's the place where to be, and that's what we aim. Okay, so I'll show it. So that's what we have here. Is very, very simple. We are in the search. There is a big search box, and we're in the training area, and then there is some filters on the left. So it's nothing really revolutionary, something that anybody can understand, and that's done by design. We want something that is easy and that is understandable. And, you know, as everybody could do, everybody has used Google. You go there and you search for whatever you want. So let's say that I'm interested in data management plans. That is something that I work a little bit in one of the cluster projects called PANOSC. So I say DMP, I press enter, and I find some trainings there. You know, there are some things here. I can go down, many things, and then I say, well, I have a colleague maybe in a Spanish university, so, oh, look, I can look in Spanish. And here I have some content, and I can filter and, you know, by many different things, and these are the stuff that we have been working to ensure that we get the right filters. And this, as we get users and we collaborate, this will evolve. It's not there, you know, the training catalog, we want it to last, but for it to last, it needs to evolve. So we'll be adapting it to the user needs as we learn from the experience of the people. But it's just, this is very simple, and the website is here, is ready. I think that is going to be one of the key success of EOS Future, and we'll just carry on making it better for everybody, and that's all really. If anybody has a question, I'll be happy to answer them, because, you know, I'm going to another session to present.
Yep.
Slightly similar thing.
Okay, we've got time. Johannes.
How do you get training in there? Oh, sorry. My name is Björn Grüning. Yeah, and I'm also doing a lot of training, and there are many of these training portals, right?
Yes.
And so how do you get training in there?
At the moment, it's not possible to get training there because, as I explained, there is another work package of EOS Future that is building the onboarding process. So there will be a part for the provider section to onboard or to upload your training and your content.
So the idea is that everyone needs to go there and add their training?
At the moment, this is the idea, but we also onboard catalogs of training. So, for example, if there is a training catalog that exists for a specific community, you could onboard it there. It will be there. So from here, you will be able to find that catalog. So it will be a catalog of catalogs. And we will see if eventually, maybe somehow in the future, we'll be able to extract these to display them directly here. But this is out of the scope for now.
So there's no plan to automatically harvest on schemas or so training material?
I will detail.
Yeah, he will show.
Okay.
I think we had another question.
There are plans for this.
Yeah.
Do we have another question? Don't.
I had another question, but I don't know if this one has been answered completely. So.
I can reply in my presentation.
Okay, yeah, the question was quite simple actually. Is the purpose of the portal to just because on the screenshots you've shown there was trainings about ADM, for example. So it's not that it's not EOS related, but is the purpose to have trainings about EOS specifically or RDM in general? Because this seems really large.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if there is a training that has actually been developed, tailored for our EOSC, then we'll include it, okay? I know it's a subjective call, I know. Because there's a lot of general RDM training as opposed to, and this is yes, this is a difficult one, and we acknowledge that that is going to be a difficult and tricky choice to make. But if there is a lot of information regarding EOSC in any given training resource, then we'll choose to include it. But I agree, it is a subjective call, and it's difficult.
Yeah, it was about DMPs actually, the thing I saw.
DMPs,
so
yeah.
Case in point.
We'll just take another question, because I know Jody has to run.
Okay, it's my question for the first presentation. You mentioned that you use MOOC. Is it really?
Moodle.
Moodle, but it's the same. Is really, did you estimate how much overhead to put the courses in the Moodle?
What,
okay, Giant Academy, what I have experienced is Giant Academy. They created a huge valuable resources training. But after I provided my slides and training materials, I simply gave up the amount of overhead to provide this, make the metadata, make description. Is our community very dynamic? I think we need to provide training solution for developers, this minimum overhead. What I see on the catalog, a majority of recorded lessons, recorded tutorials. This is, I think, sufficient. This is not general community, not the students that are not educated. Researchers are already ready to consume any kind of product.
Okay. But yeah, the overhead, so you do mean financial as well?
No.
What do you mean, the time in converting to course?
Converting to Moodle, but to MOOC it's unbelievable.
Well,
but we're oh, I'm sorry, please.
It's not a problem of the tools of Moodle. Also, if you use other platforms, the effort to produce contents and metadata is always a lot.
I think certainly within EOSC Future. Sorry, do you want to say something?
No, please. Sorry.
I was just going to say within EOSC Future, we have got plans. The catalogue includes raw materials from face-to-face training and asynchronous, online training, but we are converting that also into online modules, so we're allowing flexibility in terms of the access, and we have got a dedicated team who's going to be working with the content providers to convert it. So we'll be taking some of that, certainly within this project. That's
Did you ask community if they need so kind of packed product? I would never look at except the course content and actually recorded video or better slides.
what I think is my background's in training for quite a long time. Usually it's providing a flexible option, a range of options, because you might not want the online course, but other people might want the online course. So I think it's providing the material in as many options as we can to give as many opportunities for wider use cases. And certainly we're trying to ensure that we take a very fair approach to training materials, which is kind of taking the FAIR principles, applying them to training materials, which essentially means breaking them down so that the raw materials can be reused easily in whichever way you want. So I think we're trying to give as many options for the material that we're producing in EOSC Future. Pedro, are you ready?
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, something happened here.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask you directly something?
Yeah, sure.
Just following what you just said, you said you would help people
with that training materials and help. Like, for example, what if I have some code and I want to build a training material around that? Would it be the right place? I'm coming from the science clusters, so how to use our clusters and.
Yeah, I mean, Venkat can probably answer the question more about the technical aspect of do you build your course in your own catalogue, training if you have one for your community, and then it gets imported into ours, into the central hub. But what we're trying to do in EOSC Future is put together some guidelines on how to create these tutorials, and we're trying to make them as simple as possible. So they won't necessarily be all singing or dancing tutorials, but they will be enough. They will be quite standard, simple, like you see in many different formats. So we will also share that guidance. So it's not going to keep it in the project. So if it happens to be useful to you, then great. And we did this as part of EOSC Synergy previously in the project, and that's kind of fed into EOSC Future. Any more questions while we're...
Sorry about this.
We'll just fill in. We've got Q&A at the end, but we'll have it while we're going.
But certainly, if you
I just checked the catalog for training materials data management. Some of them has metadata. Okay, not bad. But if I look at the direct download, it returned to the catalog in the top on the home page. So this is annoying.
Yeah, no, that needs.
This is annoying.
Yeah. I
think it's very new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important to say, just to clarify this. So it seemed what was done in production, and yesterday in one of the sessions it was already clarified. So that is really one of the last things that the technical team did to put in production. Possibility to search the products, not only the services as in the past, but already integrating the research products, data, publications, and also the training. So it's really something recent. I'm not sure if it is great, because even for us, we just created a sample of records just for the beta catalog and for the testing that we did with the end users. So the sample of records that we created, that is available online. This is important to clarify. The process, maybe it's not the best. For me, it was not the best, but it was what was possible within the project to deliver. But what we have now is a sample of records in this first version of the catalog. Just to be clear. So, more questions? No, I continue. No, just want to highlight, and this will also clarify some things. So, and important for the community are the specifications that we did, and we just want to highlight the metadata because are important for some of the issues already raised here in terms of I have a catalog. What are the plans for EOSC Future to include this in EOSC? The way that I should expose the content of my records in my catalog, etc. So we come up with the specifications in the beginning when we deliver the specifications. So last year in September for the technical team to develop the catalog, we come up with the first set of metadata based on the RDA Education and Training interest group. That they have proposed is something that the community have agreed, and we rely on that. But then we start working with some colleagues from different infrastructures that have training catalogs. So Elixir, the Daria Campus, the EOSC Pillar, also the Shock training catalog, and we realized that the metadata fields the metadata set that we have presented should be a bit adapted to the reality. So we come up with specifications that they are available. So all the things that we are presenting here and all the developments that in fact we are doing in training, they are publicly available in the wiki for comments, for people to react to the options. So since the beginning we had this approach because several colleagues from the EOSC regional projects from the clusters were asking things about the development, so we wanted to make everything clear. So the metadata specifications are available. So what we have, so it's the same metadata set, but there are differences in terms of the fields that are mandatory and those that are not mandatory. Between if you you onboard the catalog as a training provider, and you can register the resources one by one. So let's say after you are accepted as a provider. So, and we have a metadata set with some fields that are, for example, mandatory, and we have more mandatory fields than if we aggregate from catalogs to downsize a bit and to adapt a bit to the reality of the training catalogs. So this is what we did. So it's available. You can check. So with the user's notes. So if it is mandatory, recommended, or optional, and you can check. And this is important even for those that have catalogs, like the issue raised here. It's interesting to see if we consider mandatory or not, and if we have it in our catalog from our infrastructure. Then we adapt the metadata schema that we have to the data model that it's on the basis of the development of the catalog in EOSC. So the catalog for services and for the other resources. So we have this adapted, which is also important when we start contacting those that have catalogs and that want to onboard automatically in a harvesting process from APIs or OAI-PMH interfaces. We will figure out that. So, but the model have these components. So we have detailed information, learning information, and we have also some specific control vocabularies to be used in this process. So it's also available. This is the proposal. It's also available here. It's not integrated yet in the, like say, the formal data model from the catalog, the entire catalog, but this is the proposal from Work Package 9. So when this is available, you can check this web page where you see the type of field that we are talking about, and if we can have more than one entry or not, and if there are any control vocabulary for that specific. I think this is important even for those that are, and we know that this is the reality in several catalogs from different infrastructures, that they want to improve the catalog, to have better metadata quality, to curate the content. So maybe we can align some, and we are using. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are using some control vocabularies from the community. So this is important. So this is the way that we have. So the basic information, the detailed information. We have some specific information for the component of training, where we have the target, we have the learning resource, the content resource type. If there is accreditation or a badge for that specific course, etc. So the classification is the same information for the entire catalog. So it's based on also what we have for services, etc. And then what is important is there are the control vocabularies available for each of them when we have control vocabulary. So this is what I wanted to highlight, and maybe with this we can clarify. So what is missing now is that we have this first release of the catalog, but there is a disalignment in terms of timeline, which is critical, because then we all have doubts, because we should have put in production the catalog together with the onboarding process, okay? And the onboarding process, it's okay for the providers, for the normal providers, but not for the training resources, okay? You can onboard, you can become a provider, but we don't have these specifications yet in the back end in terms of onboarding for the training resources. So we need to wait a bit for that. And when this is done, so we will have the possibility to register training providers and then the resources that those providers want to contribute to the catalog. And in this process, we will have also the harvesting done for those that have catalogs. There was one slide where I put the 4 pilots that we work. So we are working with those pilots in order to aggregate automatically, and we will have solutions, and then we present it to the community in order to have more catalogs to to automatically be onboarding. So they become a provider. They choose. We want to be aggregator. This is our interface. So we check. We do the proper transformation and mappings, and then we proceed. This is the way. So there are some gaps here, but I think at least the process is. I hope it's clear. Yes.
So just to add, absolutely anything that already exists and trying to integrate that into the Knowledge Hub, because all of these different catalogs have their own unique metadata schemas, and trying to align them all, that's been the big task here. New records, that's easy because we're actually making the rules for that, but anything that's already out there, that's the tricky one, and we've been trying to create a framework which makes everyone happy, but of course you're not going to make everyone happy, and that's the big problem here.
Yes, there are one question there. No?
Oh, is it a question? Or? Okay.
Okay, sorry. You said.
No, sorry.
Oh, you said okay.
Yeah, that was like I liked your presentation, so it was in the Zoom mode. I still am kind of difficulties with this kind of drawing the circle around the EOSC, saying we only want the EOSC and not want, because I mean, but you said it, where to draw the line, but because that's kind of in a contradiction to what Jorge said, was, sorry, that it should be the kind of one-stop shop for. So I think the researcher doesn't want to go, doesn't want to know more about EOS. They want to do their research, and EOS should be as seamless as possible. And so I would want to know something about the. Anyhow, what I actually wanted to ask is, when do you collect from the kind of harvest from catalogs? How do you then pick when you don't want to take everything from there, but only EOS-related stuff? Then would you handpick, or?
No, this is why we are using this pilot approach, because we need to work with the community. What we already discussed with some is that they will be able to create to expose the records in sets, that this is the EOSC set, and we can consume it from there. This is the idea. We discussed it with for test was clear. So, but the issue here is that we are working in a pilot things. We also reuse. So what RDA Education and Training Group is doing is important, but we also benefit a bit from some work that Fair did, analyzing also the metadata from the catalogs. So there are gaps. We all know, because those that have catalogs know that there are gaps in terms of metadata, in terms of curation, in terms of quality. Even Test, that is here since a while, they have records with 2 or 3 metadata fields, so it's impossible to aggregate 2 or 3 metadata fields. It's impossible to do it with good quality in an aggregator, in a catalog. So we all need to work on that. So I hope that what we can do in the pilot basis is that, okay, I want to become a training provider, and I want also to contribute with training resources. So I create this set and I enrich a bit the metadata and I expose it to the EOSC. I think this is what we should do for all those that have training catalogs. I think this should be the. It's now more clear for you? No. You don't.
And another thing that I have to say as well is the reviewers of the EOS Future project and what the initial description of work was, that we must not redo any kind of open science or RDM or any training like that, that we specifically have to create something for EOSC. And I know, and yeah.
There are also, to reply to your question and before, so it's important to so creating a training catalog within the catalog of EOSC. So we are not doing something extraordinary, because of course those that are working in life sciences, they know the resources that they have available and they don't come to EOSC training catalog to find the training materials. They will do it with their peers or the catalog from Elixir or whatever. But having this, it's interesting to link to other resources, to link to the services, and we are building here a more rich catalog, which I think is really an added value thing. So if someone is finding resources in services related with data management plan, tools to implement in their institution or in their research community, we can also propose training associated to data management plans, and they know if they have a qualification or not, they know the duration, they know this kind of things. I think this is useful. It's not extraordinary, but this is a plus for the EOSC catalog.
I want to say sorry in the beginning, because I will start a small rant. I'm now here for 4 days, so I really don't like this concept of a registry of a registry of a registry, right? I mean, what do we want for the user? And I completely agree, right? The user is interested in doing science and not going through thousands of registry and finding something. And we put a lot of effort, I mean, financial, human resource, in creating those registry of registries of registries. For which purpose? Right? And as you said, and yes, this is a big problem that many people have already thought about. We then need to align metadatas again and need to aggregate metadata and whatnot. But these problems are all handmade, right? We produce these problems by our own, because we have now another portal that tries to aggregate metadata of another portal that already tried to aggregate metadata. We need to break this loop, right? And you have mentioned TESS. I mean, TESS is a standalone resource. You can rebrand that and deploy it as EOS Portal to satisfy your reviewers, but then at least you don't need to reinvent and recode this web portal. Right? And yes, I know that there are different communities that have portals, and yes, maybe they cannot agree on a political level, but for God's sake, we need to break the circle. Yeah. Otherwise, we will be in 10 years here and create another training portal that aggregates from this one. I don't think that's a sustainable solution, to be honest.
Our responsibility, those that are involved in this. It's not politically, it's not our responsibility of each of us maybe here, but we are here to I agree with your point of view. It's important to say that the approach that we did to reply concrete to your question was that, so we did the specifications for the catalog, but since the beginning we said that it's important to incorporate the training resources in the catalog that already exists. And this is what we have. So Jordi presented, but what we have is the catalog of the services and the resources already onboarded. And the training is a facet, it's a plus, an additional thing. So we didn't create a new catalog. So we just incorporate new kinds of resources, we enrich it and we adapt it to the metadata. So just not to create another one. Okay. Maybe you are not satisfied with this, but this was the approach, because since the beginning we said, okay, are we going to create a catalog that is in parallel to the catalog of EOSC? And we said no, so let's try to incorporate it, and it's done. So here in terms of solution, okay, who decided to have this solution for the catalog? I was not there. And then the other that is important, so the registration is not a register of registers. So that part I think should need to be clarified. So we are using exactly the same onboarding process. It's exactly the same. So when you want to become a provider of EOSC, whatever you want to do, so it's the same. The entry point is the same. Then you decide, okay, I want to contribute with, I'm a provider that want to contribute with services, or with services and research products, or with services, research products and training resources. And then you manage the resources. You only registered once, and then you registered the resources. But you are doing the same now. So, and we use all the same workflows. The approach is that, okay, I'm not replying to your question, because your question is more than this discussion that we are having here in training, I think. But it's just important to say that the catalog is the same. The onboarding process is exactly the same. We are using the same team, the POT team, that the EOSC Portal onboarding team is the one that is auditing, onboarding, certifying and auditing the resources. These are training resources, the other are services and EOSC resources, let's say.
Okay, we should have plenty of time for discussion at the end, so if you've got any more thoughts, hold them for a moment. And we've got one final speaker. Heinrich, would you like to just come up? Tell us a bit more about the provider service training that we've been doing.
Yes, hello everybody. Good. I'm Heinrich from the German Climate Computing Center in Hamburg, and said I will focus here on the actor group provider. So this is actually more or less a repetition from my talk on Tuesday. It was another training session. So this is more about generating training. So okay, I will just as said, maybe I skip here something. So that's clear. That's one task of the work package 9 is the training delivery and content integration for EOSC. And as already said, so the general objectives is to create modular and reusable training program for EOSC. And that means build training materials. In particular, we go for self-study and interactive webinars. Then will they be then available in the training catalog? And coordinating and organizing training events is one of the main tasks here of the actor group. And yes, and this is already said. I can more or less skip this. So it's focused on EOSC related subjects to the training we build here. In this case, especially it's related and targeted to EOSC Portal service, so the aligning with the core services of EOSC, and is in particular in the process of onboarding resources in the EOSC marketplace. And as already as well said by Venkat, it's important that we customize and target the training to the needs of the trainees. So these are in general the EOSC users and stakeholders, maybe already active users and stakeholders, but as well potential. So. And that means it's important to outreach to the research communities. So one plan is that we will have as well interviews with the science project and on what are their training needs, and as well on the already existing trainings, and then integrate them or based on the existing training material to adapt this for EOSC training catalog. And as said already by Venkat as well, we have here 5 actor groups. Does not repeat here the list. So, and I will focus here on the EOSC provider group. So, so some basic questions. So what? So providing of resources to EOSC, who is the target group, that's tautology. So it's the EOSC resource providers, and what is a resource provider? It's someone who offers especially services and or content to the EOSC marketplace. So what is provided? So what are resources? So until now, and mainly we focus on services here, but later on or now we start as well to come up with go for as well for data and software onboarding process. So we will then have trainings on this beginning of next year. But not only the services are onboarded, but of course there are associated documentation and guides and metadata about licensing and APIs of the services, and all of this information should have be onboarded with the services. To whom, that's as well clear. So it's onboarding and uploading to the EOSC marketplace. So on the the question how, this is actually what training should deliver, so explaining what how, and here we especially focus on the training on the onboarding process via the interfaces via the EOSC Portal. So there is one concrete training event, so at the beginning of December. I will come later to this. And why? So this is always a general question, often asked, answered within the last days. So what are the benefits to onboard services? So your services will be visible, discoverable, accessible, reusable on the cross-domain interoperable platform of EOSC. And and you contribute to the development of EOSC into a rich environment of resources for research. Okay, but now what the actor group itself in a nutshell. So we are around 10 people meeting bi-weekly and and organize these training events and creating the training material. So this is a very interactive process and group. We interact with the other actor groups. And and it depends on the upcoming and the next events and blend with who participates to the preparation teams and Okay, and this is already said what we work on, so I can skip this, but in one sentence at the end we want to design a pathway for EOSC providers to guide them through especially this onboarding process. Okay, here's the workflow shown, how in general this generation of training material works. I think this is more or less valid as well for the other actor groups. So if the big circle is set, it's important first to reach out to the communities in the science project which needs they have and which training material is already there, not to invent the wheel from again. And then is there a pointer? Yes, not here. Anyway, and then as said, to identify subjects where we want for build training. So this is a big circle, and then per subject per training. So we have typically a first initial training event, and then we create a course and self-study webinars. And so this is an iterative, ongoing process. There's updates, and so okay, but this is in principle the workflow. One example. So last week we have a training event on service documentation for EOSC providers. It was very successful, I think, and so this is conducted by Maggie Hellström from the Envry Fair, and with a team of a lot of supporters and helpers for the breakout groups and help from the communication team. You need all these technical things from the registration form up to help with the Slido and etc. pp. And go not in the detail here, but it was a very nice event and a lot of interactions, and there were 2 exercises. So, and important is always the feedback from the trainees, of course. So for this topic, for example, there was the feedback what is hard for if you want to create a good documentation of the service. For example, that you have the right technical level and addressing the right target groups for your service is addressed to. And what is also important for the EOC, so that you get feedback as well for the EOSC Portal and developer. So what can be improved in the EOSC Portal? So, okay, here just some of the upcoming events we plan or which are already announced. So in beginning of December, the 5th December, there will be a training on using REST APIs for onboarding new services. So with this API, you can upload a whole service catalog. And another one, I think Venkat will. That is a training event about privacy policy in terms of use of services. And I think next year we will go for in September, the EOSC launched the EOSC Data Resource Catalog. And there are two sides of the medal. So that means a training on how to make your data discoverable. This is addressed to the providers. And the other side of the medal is how to discover data. So this is to the actor group consumers. And there are many other long lists we have in the schedule and we want to do. And maybe you have as well special wishes or proposals for training you miss here. Okay, outlook and lessons learned. Yeah, training, it's important that you orient you and that you customize your training to the needs of the providers, and generation of training materials, an iterative and dynamic process. And we do need contribution and support from all stakeholders to build good training material, and feedback is very important here, as said, and can serve as for improvement of the EOSC Portal development. So I conclude with really citing this soccer trainer or soccer coach, so after the training is always before the training. Okay, thank you for your
Thanks,
attention.
Henrik. Okay, do you have any questions specifically for Heinrich before we move on to the general Q&A?
The workshop you mentioned, Heinrich, are there open to anyone or just the EOS Future members? I didn't quite understand, sorry about this.
Exactly.
The workshops?
It's open for anyone.
Okay, okay, dates duly noted.
Yeah, they're going to be published on the EOS Future website. They need to be announced, that's right, yeah.
Okay, do we have any other questions on any topics?
Could I just make a comment
Sure.
in response to earlier?
Okay.
Is that okay, or?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, just quickly. I actually completely agree with a lot of what you said, but the powers that be, what they're saying about EOSC is one of the core tenets of what EOSC is meant to be is interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research. And whether it's discovering data, services, or whatever, or learning resources, the EOS Portal is meant to be this way of just finding all of these things across disciplines so that a researcher can go to this single entry point and find these different things. And then possibly, because we live in this new age of interdisciplinary research, that there's no clear boundaries. We're trying to join these silos up. That is one of the things that EOSC is really, it's an ambitious thing, perhaps, but that is what it's aiming to do. So regardless of whether it's a learning resource or a data set, whatever it might be, if you were to look at those individual catalogues, you wouldn't have that advantage. You would just stay within that silo. And that's where this ambition of EOS comes from.
That's exactly what I was going to say in response to that as well. And I think the other thing to bear in mind is that the users of this catalogue are not necessarily just researchers. There will be intermediaries and trainers who might be looking for resources in lots of different disciplines. So was your point to respond? Because we've still got... Yeah.
From a practical point of view, when working on one of the EOSC Future Science project, I absolutely agree with you. Because in order to do, we are trying to integrate like environmental data and survey data in practice. And we have to learn a lot in order to do that. And if we can then convey what we learn, it will be easier for others. Because you need to learn a little about the other sciences also in order to do this integration. So, yeah, thank you very much for your initiative, I would say.
Right, another question.
Hello, Katarina Weistenbjerde from Norway. A question to you, Venkat. You mentioned these groups, stakeholder or learner groups, and I'm working in the Skills for EOS project, and I'm working in a work package where we are focusing on policymakers. And I was wondering, would they go into your group called
intermediaries?
Yeah. Okay. So just to find out where they're at, and yeah.
It's a clumsy grouping, but we didn't know what else to call it. So
no,
we
but
call them
just
intermediaries stroke facilitators of EOSC. And yes, it's a bit of a broad church, but yes, policymakers.
But let's just talk together, and we'll get there at some point. And I will get in contact.
Sure.
Definitely.
Just a clarification about the actors, because Venkat mentioned, but these actor groups that we created as actors for trainings, in fact, it's exactly the same nomination for work for the outreach and dissemination. So this is not only for training. So the EOSC Future decided, in the way that we are doing engagement outreach is using exactly the same four types.
Is there another question?
Sorry for being obnoxious. I tried last time regarding this EOS scope, because I mean I understand that it was explicitly in the DOA. We have to redo, and we cannot reinvent the wheel, write material that is already there for topics. But so that has to be a specific material that is being created. But the catalog being part of the big opener catalog, which actually has the ambition to kind of have as broad a scope as possible. I mean, there are 130 million publications, so I'm wondering why shouldn't the training part of this catalog also have a broad scope and collect as much as possible of training material from the disciplines, from the disciplinary catalog. So just, yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
This is so one thing that Venkat said that is true is that the learning platform, the courses that we want to have in learning platform are explicitly about EOSC. So we are not creating courses there. But the catalog, the policy for the catalog, it's larger. It's not only about EOSC. It can be things that are related to EOSC. We need to clarify it. So I'm sending, in fact, emails for some people to make some things urgent, because to make this clear. So the onboarding policy is already also done, prepared by us, needs to be approved by someone that already managed this. So the curation, the policy is in terms of content, is more than a specific training on EOSC. So the relevant training on RDM, on fair data, on open science is relevant for EOSC. For sure.
Okay, so relevant for you would be also...
Yes. The catalog, not the learning platform. The learning platform is really exclusive for the developers.
This is the dilemma we've had with running a lot of the training within the work package, is designing it. We need to start with the basis of what is open science, but but we are only supposed to be talking about EOSC, so it's quite difficult. Do we have any other questions?
Okay. This curiosity. So yes, just from the point of view, Sara Di Giorgio from Skills for EOSC, and we are reflecting in our schema what to present as resources. Maybe the resources could be a video or a PowerPoint or a document, but maybe also could be the entire course. So I saw that in your schema it is based mainly on an item level, so about the single resources. How do you express, for example, if I'm a user and I want to replicate a course where are many resources, many different resources, how can I find out through the catalog this unity of different resources that has been used in one course, for example?
So we have it. So you can register a course, an entire course as a resource, or you can register a video tutorial as a resource. A video tutorial may be used in a specific course, but you can have those entries. Depends. Yeah.
So you allow all the different.
Yes, the metadata specifications allow. This is not a question of. So it's if it is a course, you mentioning as the content type as a course. If it is a video tutorial, you mentioning. If it is a video tutorial that is. Yes, and it's a practice, a normal practice. The metadata specifications that we have allow that. If you look to several catalogs, they have that. So they have like that's presentation, specific presentation about the data management plans. That is a resource that it was used in a course. For example, if you search in TESS or in other catalogs, you will find this kind of things. And our approach is to allow this kind of things. You can have a MOOC registered as a resource, and then you can have 4, 5, 6 video tutorials that are used in that MOOC as a resource.
Exactly.
And ultimately, this is another big question about curation of the resources, and that's not something we want to get into in the project. This is where we need the community to help. And yeah, what granularity is it just a PowerPoint slide deck, or is that part of a much bigger course or something like that? We need the curation help of the community, and yes, the quality assessment criteria that I mentioned as well. And this has to be integrated, and we are figuring that out.
I mean, sorry, I just think these are not new problems. I mean, the open education community must have been dealing with these for years, and I do wonder if there needs to be more dialogue with the open education community. I was part of that community many years ago, but it's surprising how separate they are. But one thing that does strike me is that is something needed similar to the RAID identifier that's trying to bring projects together. You know, bring all different elements of a project together, an identifier that can bring together different elements of a learning resource, learning resources into a course. I don't know, there may be work on this already, I don't know. If anybody knows of anything like that, that would be really interesting. Yep.
Ad hoc reaction to that would be, I think that could be easily done with PIDs. So, when you have a representation for the course and then making parts of it, so that's, yeah.
I haven't come across that, but I'm about to go and ask a lot of people if they have. Any other comments or any questions? Okay. I will confess I haven't got any pre-prepared questions. So I'm proposing that we maybe wrap up a little bit early. Would anybody object to that? If we do, I think those of us that have been in here... You want to say something, Pedro? Yep.
So just to say, go through things quickly, because I think it was good to have this session. It was critical because of the stage of the development, so we will expose some fragilities, but I think it's not natural. So please, you have some links in the presentation. Take a look to what the information that we have available in the wiki, publicly available in the wiki. So we made everything public. Really, it was a push. Even we were not allowed by the commission to put some deliverables available. That some content of the deliverables we put it available because the metadata specifications, these kind of things are really important to receive feedback from the community. The training plans are there. The data model is there. So if you take a look to the data model, for example, to adapt to the catalogs that we have and stay in touch with us. So we have these 4 pilots. I'm looking to Cosimo that Cosimo is the contact person for the pilots, but if we have other catalogs, we already found yesterday one from PANOSC that we are in touch. If we have other catalogs that we can start to use as pilots to aggregate content, will be really helpful. Because we don't want to come up with a rule like OAI-PMA's interface and you need to have, because we only one catalog have it, so we need to find the right way to do. So this is what I want to highlight. And be aware that the onboarding process where we have the policy will be available also soon, and the back end of the system where you can already onboard resources will be also ready, I hope, in 3 or 4 months is also for the onboarding of the training resources.
Yeah, and just to make it crystal clear, this is just an initial release of the Knowledge Hub. We have a lot more to do. There's 10 months left in the EOS Future project, and between now and then, it's going to go through a lot of changes to add functionality. For example, the help desk, we need to integrate it with that. The Open Plato platform, which is actually separate, but was initially built by OpenAir, that needs to be integrated into EOSC AAI as well. So all these things are going to be added onto it, as well as any changes that need to be made to the catalog and the metadata fields, etc. If anyone finds anything wrong or has suggestions, then by all means feel free to contact us. It's a community effort, and we need your help as well. And in terms of onboarding, yes, if you have any questions about whether what you might have is a valid, falls into the criteria that we're telling you about here, then just contact us and we can try and work something out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone? Okay. Well, thanks to all to our speakers.